you don't say what you want, you're not going to get it. You got to be clear about it. Because if you're not, it's like going to a restaurant and sitting at a table and not ordering anything.
And then you're just waiting for the food to come.
Yeah. And maybe they'll even bring you something. But will it be something you want to eat? Hey, Miles.
Hey, Bill.
What are you doing?
Just holding on for dear life.
I feel like I'm trying to warm the car up after it's been sitting in the freezing cold for a while. Only I'm the car.
I like
it's
that.
taken a minute, we're coming out of a holiday break, which I took pretty seriously as far as taking a break. And then I got sick for a week, so I kind of lost a week. You know what I mean? And then next thing you know, it's time to start again, and I've got things on my calendar, and I've got to do them, and this isn't just a holiday thing. This happens to me a couple of times a year. Usually, either transitioning to different seasons. Like for me, and probably for anybody who has kids, it's when school lets out, right, for the summer, and then when school starts again. Those are both big transitions in our house. Everything turns around a little bit. Long holiday breaks, things like that. It can be other stuff too, whether that's changing maybe what I'm doing or taking on a new project can be a transition. You're trying to put something in your life. And the one thing that I keep coming back to right now is, do I want to continue to do things the way I did for the last, 4 to 6 months? Or can I set myself up for success differently? Can I do that job a little better? Look at that, and also kind of look at what do I want? What's the next? What's the next thing? I mean, there's always the next thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
You're trying to 10x your life, man.
Oh my God, I'm gonna hang up now. No, but I have some new projects, some new intentions around things. I'm not going to use the G word. I don't like the G word. But I have some new things that I want to accomplish and create. The G word is goals, by the way.
Yeah. Took me a second.
And the goals can really work for some people. I think me personally, I distinguish goals as something that's very beneficial in an organization and almost always tied to revenue. Right. So you have sales goals, you can have, growth goals that are tied to revenue ultimately. And I think goals work really well in that. And then the only other place that I think goals are really useful is sometimes in fitness. Some people will have some pretty measurable fitness goals that are tied to something. Right. But oftentimes we create goals for ourselves that are just kind of hanging out there in space. They're not really related to anything, or they're too big. And you either just end up, you don't care about it, or it's so big that it suffocates you or it psychs you out and you can't do it. And when you do that a bunch of times, it undermines your confidence. So I just don't use that word very much.
Or like a month goes by and you no longer give a shit about that goal. And then, you do that enough times, and the meaning and the weight of the word goal and what you were trying to do is just completely gone. And I think that leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. And then, of course, just all the different ways goals are thrown out there, and everyone's so different that I think that, because I'm asking myself, like, why are we so against certain words like resolution and goals and stuff? And I think they're just blah now. They've lost. It's like inflation for the word. Like it's just too much now to where there's no point.
There's been too much baggage hung on some of those words, and so I don't use that one. But if that one turns people on, they should use it. You know what I mean? Like anything that calls you forward. I tend to be more inspired by the word intention.
Mhm.
So creating intentions. So it all comes down really to saying what you want. If you don't say what you want, you're not going to get it. So if you're going to set yourself up for success, to me, the first thing you got to do is be clear about what you want.
Oh, that's so
And that
hard,
can
man.
be what you want 5 years from now, or that can be what you want 5 months from now, or 5 weeks from now, or 5 minutes from now. I don't know, but you got to be
Yeah.
clear about it. Because if you're
Yeah.
not, it's like going to a restaurant and sitting at a table and not ordering anything.
That's that is a good point. And then you're just waiting for the food to come.
Yeah. And maybe they'll even bring you something. But
Yeah.
will it be something you want to eat? I don't know.
That's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, if they bring me liver and onions, I'm running away. I don't want to eat that. It's not what I want.
So look at the waiter, waitress and say, I want the blah blah blah. That's step
Exactly.
one.
And we have to do the same thing in our lives. I had a conversation with a guy the other day who just isn't clear about that. You know what I mean? And that's really what we talked about. I just said, look, stop trying to figure out how to get something and just say what it is you want. I mean,
I'm right
if you
here,
go
Bill.
to
You don't have to act like you're talking about someone
I'm
else.
sorry, man. I didn't want to call you out. If you go to that same restaurant and you want, I don't know why, but since I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about the restaurant we went to in my town, and they actually serve this pasta bolognese dish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I want that. Do I need to figure out how they're going to make that? Do I need to, like, step by step know what to do? No.
That's gonna overwhelm you.
I have to ask for it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
let the rest of it take care of itself. And life is very much the same. It doesn't mean that I can sit here at my desk and say I want pasta bolognese and it's going to magically appear, but
Yeah.
but I don't have to figure out how to do it before I say what it is.
The attachment issues that come with like goals and what we want in life, we get so attached to it. And usually I feel like it's usually the wrong thing. Well, it's hard to know what you want, I think, first and foremost. So I think what you just talked about is like maybe the hardest part.
Yeah, but maybe it's not hard to know what you want. I think you do know what you want. You just can't figure out how to get it. So your head stops you from saying what it is. The minute you go, okay, this is where I want to be next year, right at this time, your brain, for a lot of people, starts to try to figure out how to get from here to there. And if it can't see a clear path, it says, nope, you can't do that. And then you don't want to say it. I could probably find 50 recipes for pasta bolognese in the next half an hour. I could look up a ton of different ways to do that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing I have to do is say what I want. This is what I want. Then I can ask myself, all right, if I want that, what's the next step? What is there to do now? Go look up a recipe or go to a restaurant that serves that. Right.
Right.
And that's what I would do. And then if I find a recipe and I read it and that looks good and it looks doable to me, then I'll take the next steps. Right. Now life's
Love
a
it.
little more complicated, right? If I say I want 8 more clients and I want them all to pay X amount of money to work with me, that's specific.
Yeah.
That's very specific.
Yep.
Okay, great. What's the next step? Find a recipe. Because there's a
Love that.
lot of different ways to have 8 more clients show up.
Yeah.
But if I don't say that that's what I'm after, I want more clients. Okay. Well, then what if I get 1 in the next year? Is that enough? Is that what I wanted? No. So I'm specific. Then I find a recipe. And then I start to follow the steps. And I don't get too far ahead of myself because I don't know if you cook, but I don't know that I have followed a recipe completely exactly unless I'm baking, like, ever.
Nope.
There's always a little room or you have some other ingredient, or your ingredients are a little bit different that you have in your house, or you just feel like throwing pepper flakes in there at the end because you dig that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have to leave that room. You don't want to get locked in to the steps.
Most of the time, you don't know exactly where you're going. You have a rough idea, you have the recipe, you know what you want, but there's room, you leave a little room for magic and you don't fight it.
Yeah, what
And
happens between here and there, you don't know.
so sometimes the magic can come in, but you don't see it as magic. You see it as, oh, this isn't the recipe. I got to quit, or I got to go to this other recipe. And you ditch the whole thing.
Yes.
That sucks.
Yeah, but we do that. It's like
Yeah.
you get so locked into the recipe, or you get so locked into the steps that you're not able to see or be aware of the opportunity or the magic that you, like you said, or whatever it is that might show up that lets you skip from step 2 all the way to the end.
Right.
That like has something happen that you could not foresee. So again, if you want to set yourself up for success, the first thing to answer is, what do you want? What is success? You have to define it. And it doesn't have to be forever, and it can change. Whatever I say I want now, if I want to change that next week, I certainly can, right? It's fine.
And I
But
do
you
think
got to
that it's
start
important. Sorry,
by
I
saying,
do think it's really important to, because what you just said, know what you want. I feel like we are really good at being in our heads and throwing out random things that we think we want, but we
yeah,
don't actually want or need. So we
yeah,
usually err on the side of logical, number-based, linear thinking. I want, it's usually revenue, money-based or numbers-based versus,
right.
and that's not always bad. I'm not saying
That's
that's
not a
not a part
bad
of it,
thing. It's okay.
but I do think there's a lot more opportunity and room for, I don't know how to even put it because it's more challenging, but like maybe how do you want to feel? What kind of space do you want around you? Who do you want around you? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you brought it up, so we can go down the road for real briefly. A lot of people, and I think probably people who listen to this podcast, people who have their own businesses or building something or growing something or running a team or whatever. Look, we can't avoid money. We can't avoid revenue. That there are going to be things we want around that. I think I said runt. No, that we want around that. And that's fine. That's great, right? But it's not, by and large, it's not a pile of money that we want.
No, yeah, I think
mean,
that's what it's
if I dumped
beyond that.
a wheelbarrow of cash in the room, well, that's just stupid. I would roll around in it. Ew, that's kind of gross. I don't know where it's
Yeah.
been.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even what we're going to do with the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's how that's going to have us feel.
That's
What we
nailed
really
it.
want. And the one thing that I can say, and I don't want to get too far off in this because we may have done an episode about it, or we could do another one, is whatever that feeling is, you can have that feeling without the money. And having that feeling is what will probably open up the space for you to actually have the money that goes with it. So without diving too far off in that, once you say what you want, right?
Yep.
So it's a big thing people do, and we don't have to use any of the words, but we cross into a new year. We've maybe taken a break, and even if you work for, I have some clients who work in sales organizations. They don't really take a break, and the end of the year is nuts, right? Because they're trying to make their sales goals by the midnight on the 31st kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the next day, they are immediately into the next year and trying to make those goals, right? There's no break.
Right. Right.
It's really, it can be really tough. Me, I took a break. You took a break. A lot of people will take a break. And even if you don't, your sales organization is going to have goals. They're going to say, here's what we want, right? Or they're going to come up with that sometime early in Q1. And so a lot of us, and I'm doing this with my clients, was really looking at, what do you want, right? You're in a transition from one thing to another, from one year to another, from one season to another, from one project to another. What do you want? All right. Once you figure out what you want, then what? The world is overwhelming. We're constantly being pulled in a million directions, and it's only going to get worse. So much of what we're sold online is about planning, strategizing, and thinking. But doing is the hardest and most important part. The box is where projects get finished. In the box, you'll organize, prioritize your projects, and finish what you start. You won't learn anything new. You'll simply get a lot done and be a part of a small community of doers. Go to theboxworkshop.com. Hey, thanks for listening today. We can't do this without the support of our listeners, so please leave us a review or sign up for our newsletter at subtleartofnotyelling.com.